Hi, everybody. We just adjourned from our executive session, which we did hold, and we are starting the full board meeting now. Thank you for being here. We're going to start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Rob Sampson unfortunately was unable to be here tonight. And we'll move to the good of the order, the board discussion. Is there anyone who wants to mention anything?
Made it through the holidays.
Yes, Happy New Year. And now we, yeah.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. The opportunity for the public to be heard. We have a small moment written down there, and we always welcome comments from the public. We ask the members of the public to come to the podium. We especially welcome students. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to come to the podium and be heard. Please open with your name.
Hi, my name is Ellery Gilker. I'm in 6th grade, and I'm here to talk to the board about the swimming unit in PE physical education. It's really important, and I'm glad I get to do it. I am concerned about the swimming unit, and I would like to ask you guys to make it optional, because some kids might have body insecurities, and this might cause them lots of stress. Another reason is that girls might have body-related things going on. After swimming, people might feel uncomfortable with wet hair. I also don't want to take this away from the kids who want to do it. I asked several of my friends, and some said they did not want to, but others did. Some said they did want to, but others didn't. I wanted to speak to the school district because kids in middle school go through lots of body stress, and this could be a big impact on them. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak to you all and giving me some of your time.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to speak. Full disclosure, that is my daughter. Are there other members of the public who would like to be heard? Okay, that's it. All right, thank you. And now we have time for student board member report. Our student board member, Tanya.
And so for the month of December, it was pretty quiet, but we did have the Sources of Strength running their Positive Friends campaign, in which students and teachers played competition games in teams of 2, and it was a lot of fun, and friends got to show off their teamwork and their friends, and then around the holidays, both the high school and middle school showed college cheer, which I feel like hasn't been shown in the past few years. I feel like it really stepped it up this year, and teachers and students dressed up for various themed days. And one of the most exciting things I'd like to report is the Voorheesville Key Club collected almost 500 items for the regional food bank, and I thought that was a really impressive feat. So yeah, that's it. Happy holidays and Happy New Year.
Thanks. Thank you, Talia. Okay. All right, we're moving to item 3.2, tax exemptions. I believe.
All right, so we're gonna give that to Jim. And this is a follow-up of the conversation that we were having at the last audit committee.
So at the audit committee, we discussed 2 exemptions, one of which has an action by the governor that was passed to potentially increase the low-income senior citizen exemption. It raises both the income limit and the exemption limit. The exemption limit goes from 29,000 to 50,000. So as I provided earlier, there's an estimate of what the impact that would be if we were to put that in place. And the estimate for that is approximately 0.5% or 8 cents per every 1,000 of full market value. The other exemption that we talked about last month was the veterans exemption. There are 3 levels. There's a veteran, there's a combat veteran, and there's disabled veteran. Those 3 different levels. The district 7 years ago set that number at the lowest amount it could be, 6,000, 12,000, and 20,000 for the 3 different levels. The base level that they talk about is called level A, which is actually 12, 20, 40. So it's basically a doubling of the number. The impact that I estimated if we were to put that into place is roughly 2%. So that's a more significant impact, approximately 32 cents per 1,000 true value. The third exemption is something that came out very recently, another law that was signed by the governor, which would allow us to provide an exemption up to 10% for volunteer firefighters and ambulance crews within the district. So since we don't have a count of those people who would be qualified and no base exemption to go from, there's not a good way to estimate what the impact would be there. Knowing that, however, there can't be that many people that are affected by this. So it's likely to be a more minor impact. We just don't know what the impact will actually be. So bringing those 3 to you, basically the process every year is if you want to change an exemption, the board has up to March 1st to make that change, to have it official for the upcoming year. I have not heard of any districts making any change yet, but again, we still have January and February meetings to make a change, as do other districts. That's the background information. I can answer any questions if there are.
I have a question. So when you talk about the impact, you said like 32 cents. Is that 32 cents that has to be spread across the other taxpayers, or how's that work?
So essentially we were at $16 this year for true tax value per 1,000.
Yeah.
If we put the veterans exemption in place, and my estimate's pretty good, that means that everyone else would pay the 2% increase spread across the rest of the district. Because you have to take out that exemption and then recalculate the tax rate.
And you're estimating that would be approximately 32 cents per 1,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is a 2% impact, essentially.
And the volunteer firefighters and ambulance, that's at the same rate as the veterans rate?
So the volunteer firefighters one was interesting because it sets a maximum rate of 10%. So basically you could say, yes, we want to do the exemption, but we're going to put it at 5%. Or yes, we want to do the exemption, but we want to put it at 8%. So up to 10%, it's different.
Jim, could you, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, I do apologize for that. Can you put a monetary value to the 2%?
Yes, the total tax levy that we bring in is approximately $20 million at this point. So 2%, you're talking $400,000. That would be a savings for the veterans that would be added on to the taxes of everyone else.
Thank you.
And this came about as a result of one individual who has had a change in his disability and has appealed for a change in the exemption rate that he's offered by the district.
I had a discussion with him during tax time, so I could understand why his exemption didn't change. And that was the information that was provided to him, that here's the current exemption, here's what went into effect. And I know Frank discussed it with him as well.
Yeah, so then I had the same conversation with him because again, of the change of that Jim was mentioning first, the first increase, I had a discussion with him and I said, you know what, I'm going to bring your concern and this conversation to the Board of Education, as we did at the audit committee, and that's where this is coming from.
Can you tell us how much in monetary benefit veterans are getting now from this district that is paid for by other taxpayers?
That was actually in the calculation that I provided. It was, trying to remember, but it was roughly on the order of,
Is it like 22 million?
yes, that sounds correct, $22 million.
On an annual basis?
Yes.
Are these things ever put on the ballot for the voters to vote on? Since it's like a tax increase, it seems odd for us to decide.
Well, and that's kind of the issue. It's not really a tax
I know,
levy
but-
increase, so that the state doesn't consider it that. I personally have not seen a school district do that, no.
I want to just clarify, vets are not getting $22 million annually.
That's the property value, right?
Property value.
The property
The
Exemption
value of the property.
amount.
The exempt, gotcha, so,
Multiply that by the $16
okay,
per thousand. Yeah.
gotcha, okay, thank you.
I guess that's the number I'm looking for.
Okay,
To
So-
know that, what are other taxpayers sharing right now? What
So-
burden do they undertake now?
that's roughly $350,000
Okay,
of actual tax levy that's being reduced by that exemption.
okay, all right. I do see a differentiation between the veterans and people who are volunteers, firefighters, or ambulance workers, EMTs. They're providing a service. The veterans did provide a service, but are not now. As I understand, they're no longer in the service.
Potentially, a currently serving member could receive the exemption
Okay,
as well.
all right,
yes.
so,
We are currently giving the exemption for veterans. And I want to remember, I just want to frame that back. We're currently giving it.
Yeah.
The conversation is, will you double it? Really is, I think, the conversation that is being asked. And then the other ask is going to be the first one you said, which I cannot repeat as well. So you're going to do that one for me, Jim. And the other question is going to be, what exemption, if you're going to give an exemption for the ambulance and firefighters, what percentage would that be if you choose to give one?
And it was the senior,
Low income.
Low income
Low income
seniors.
seniors.
Yeah, and that's 0.5%, correct?
That's the impact of that 0.5% estimated.
well, I'll go back to what, Trish said, and I know that, we don't put this up for a vote or anything, but what we would be determining is others in the district would carry a larger tax burden to benefit these folks, be they veterans or EMTs or firefighters or low-income seniors. I'm not sure we're in a position to speak on their behalf that way, to say, yeah, put me in, I'm willing to pay more. That sounds shouldn't really be our responsibility to do that. I know the law is the law, but I don't feel comfortable raising people's taxes.
And that's why we're having this discussion, so you can give us direction on, if you want to bring something forward, and if you don't, that's okay, nothing goes forward.
RTP.
Yeah, well, I think Tim's right on, right? We would be increasing the tax burden on certain taxpayers who did not vote in favor of the tax levy as it would apply to them. So I question whether the law is actually valid. No one's challenged it, but I think it's a fair point that the process doesn't seem kosher to me.
It almost feels like it would be a referendum rather than if that's a legitimate option.
Yeah, I think
Like-
the,
Yeah, I'm not sure if
Yeah.
that is actually an option.
Yeah,
I think
but
the-
that would be
Sorry,
certainly the
Rachel.
voters would speak. Sorry, go ahead.
I think the biggest problem is that the authority that localities and school districts were given has no money behind it by the legislature. So the legislature, did the nice, give us a pat on the back, because we're taking care of low-income seniors and veterans and firefighters and ambulance workers, but they put no money behind it, which makes it incredibly difficult for people like us to administer. And there's also, of course, the concern over whether it's actually a valid act of the legislature.
I remember when this was put in place, it was with a lot of political hubbub and a lot of positive energy behind it. At the same time, it was the governor and the legislature saying, oh, by the way, you school boards have to decide. And, you know, there were school boards that were saying, well, we can't do that to our taxpayers, and they took a lot of heat for that. I recall veterans coming into school board meetings in wheelchairs saying, you can't be denying this to us. So this was a very difficult thing for school boards to work through the first time through. Not really, I'm not anxious to revisit those days.
Barbara?
Jim, you figured out what would be the average increase for like the average homeowner?
So I'll tell you, I did quick math.
You did, okay.
If you had a property assessed at $300,000, and that was your assessment value, forget about star credits or any of that, your tax bill would go up by $120 a year.
Yeah, that's the 40 cents between the two.
That's the 40
exceptions.
cents.
So it's strangely, the number we keep coming back to is 2.5% for everything. And it's exactly the same as the impact of the capital project. You know, it's exactly the same as our tax levy increase for last year. And it's just a number everything seems to revolve around every year, so.
Talia, did you have any questions?
No.
Robin?
That hasn't already been said.
I mean, obviously, we value the purpose of this. I just struggle with me deciding that other people's taxes should go up without them being able to vote on it.
Yeah.
But it's a struggle, because these people deserve it.
One other question, Jim. Is there any idea of the number of people that would be affected in each of these three categories?
We have the rough numbers. With the calculation, there were numbers provided. My estimate on the senior low income exemption was taking every single number that was there. I think it was like 93, I want to say, that qualify and basically doubling it. So because more people would be qualified with the higher income, and with the veterans exemption, I took the exact number of exemptions there were, and that would be the number that we're looking at.
Thank you, sorry to.
And then just on the firefighters and ambulance workers, there's no good data on that. I asked someone who would know, and there's no way to get good data. I mean, we could FOIA our local fire
Rosters.
departments and ambulance companies, but other than that, we don't have a good way. And it also doesn't take into account different types of volunteerism, which could really make this overly broad, in my opinion.
You mean volunteers that might only volunteer for a few hours a week?
You might work the pancake breakfast,
Yeah,
but not actually fight fires.
We will continue to monitor this, but I think
Well, I think there's a timing issue though,
yeah,
around March.
We really have another audit committee in February, am I correct?
Yeah, the beginning of February.
let's see if we want to make any decisions at that point to move it forward.
This data is very helpful, though,
Yeah,
to frame it a little bit.
thank you, Jim, for doing all the behind the scenes on that. It's a challenging one. I think, right?
Yeah. Just give me-
Yep. Now,
I apologize, I'm just taking care of a quick family emergency.
okay.
Awesome, yep. Okay, so superintendent's report. First, I want to kind of add to what Talia said, what she left out of the 500 cans and items of food was that it resulted in Tom Glad, our social studies department chair and social studies teacher, dressing up as a penguin for the day. So that was great because the kids actually each teacher in each grade level, they choose one teacher. And that teacher, whoever gets the most cans over the period of the week, has to wear a penguin costume for the full day. Last year, I think it was Mrs. Bolin, and this year it was Mr. Glenn. So I thought, I just wanted to share that really quick, that we left that part out like the best part. And he did, I think it was like 350 can items and food items, so that was pretty impressive that they wanted to see Mr. Glad wearing that. I don't have a ton. I want to give an update on the planning for the project. We are in still our initial design phases. We've met with our transportation facility to kind of outline what that would look like in the user group. So we're meeting with the architects, making sure that with the board at our next facilities committee. But we kind of have a base outline of our transportation facility itself. So that's our first step. Doesn't have like the details, it just has like the hub and kind of structure of what it would look like. So the main needs and functionality aspect of that. And we're trying to do certain things with that, as looking at solar power, and we're also looking at making sure that we can keep it to a point where we don't have to put sprinklers in. So, because sprinklers cost another extra, I believe it's about $400,000. Yeah, for sprinklers. So if we can do the other ways to rate a building, that's what we're going to try to shoot for, to keep those costs at a minimum. But we're getting close to that. We've had user group meetings for our elementary school. We're still going back to that. Our cafeteria, we had a user group meeting. We basically threw that right out the window, and we went back to redesign the cafeteria again. We have a user group meeting next week that we're going to go over that with them. User group meetings are the people who are utilizing those rooms the most, or a subset of those rooms. So like when we're doing the teachers' rooms, we had about 10 people that were chosen by the union and teachers and the admin, and they came in and kind of looked at all those rooms. The people who are utilizing the music and art rooms, we're meeting next week to kind of go over those user groups. So that's the first phase of the design and detail, and we're still working through it. We went out for an RFP for our construction manager. Facilities committee is going to be doing the interviews of that. That's on January 25th. So construction manager basically is going to be the person who oversees the project for the district. If you look at the district being the hub of the wheel, we are the hub, meaning we are the money. Really, that's how it works. The hub and vision is the district, and basically everything else, all the spokes of that wheel go out, and that's the money that goes out to those areas. And we need someone to really help spin that wheel, and that's a construction manager. Those are the people that really work for the district to make sure everything is going the way that it needs to go. So that is going to go next week, or the 25th. So we're pretty excited about that. Any questions on that? Okay, vestibule. So finally, this is huge. The middle school vestibule, I know it's been talked about. I mean, I've lived in the district for 17 years. I think that was a conversation for at least 9 years going on about adding a secure vestibule at the middle school. We have finally got, that went out to bid. The state has approved it. So we have got bidders, and we're looking at, there's some lead times. So we're waiting a little bit on this, because the window itself, I believe is a 4 to 5 month lead just to get the window. Right, Jim?
That was the estimate.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say 7 months at this point for a window. But that's just a window that will go in. So again, just to reframe it, the vestibule entrance of the middle school, the entrance will stay the same. We're gonna move the electrical components that are there to the other side. Where that is, we're gonna cut a hole in the wall, put a window in, put electrical locking mechanisms on the second entry door. So that way they have to stop, so anybody can get buzzed in. They come into the entranceway where the attendance clerk or secretary will be like, how can I help you? They can hand out lunches, they can do all those things, and then they can leave or pick up their children, but it lessens the opportunities and options of people coming into the building. So it really is a great way to look at it. We are still going towards doing that at the high school. It's a little bit more complex, as we talked about, but we did find the funds by utilizing our smart schools and other bonds and grants that we had. So we've been able to do that. Now we're still in the planning phase and then submission to state act. But, these things take a couple of years. We're pretty happy that we're getting forward on this one. Any questions on that? All right, 2 more quick things. Custodial and food service workers, we're once again going to be blasting that out in all the newspapers. But we are in need of custodial and food service workers. So if you know anyone who's looking for some positions, we are more than happy to take interviews and applications. And we are flexible in our hiring for custodial workers. We can work out timeframes and part-time, full-time substitutes. But the more people that we can get on board, the better it will be. And last is today I was I'm pretty excited. I got to go in and watch our students who are part of the Student Voices. That's through BOCES. I've talked about it before. It's Elevating Student Voices, where there's about 14 schools that are involved, where the students all work together to be able to come together. They train each other. They have conversations from all different districts in the area. And those students meet on a wide range of topics. So if it's microaggressions, if it's race, if it's ethnicity, if it's religious aspects, there's a whole bunch of different topics. So our students who are involved in this are actually getting to speak to other students and get other student perspectives. And from there, they're bringing those ideas back to the building to be initiates for change. So this is really exciting work. We want to see it grow each year. Today, those students, 3 of those students, because we only have 3 students, it was based on our enrollment that could participate in it. Those 3 students presented to the middle school today. And I was really impressed with their work. And, it's always hard to be able to give presentations, but to give presentations to the teachers as a student, I give them credit for doing that. And they really want to kind of work on their project and maybe do it also for the high school. But I think it's a great step forward for the students in getting voice and having our students be able to have a little bit more say and they'll feel invested in their district. So that was really exciting and I just wanted to share that. That's it. Oh, and at the end of the year, they are doing a culminating event at Proctor's. So big a day symposium for everyone who's involved. And they're also going to open that up so we can probably get a few more of our students who are interested in going to that. So our students can explore that as well.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna move to section 4. Thank you, Frank. Appreciate it. Approval of minutes from previous month. Does anyone want to move
I can
that?
move it.
All right, anyone second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We'll go to treasurer's report. Any questions, All in favor?
Aye.
Or anyone want to move it? I'm
I'll
sorry.
move it.
Any second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. And personnel? 5.2 all the way through. Anyone want to move that?
I'll move it.
Anyone want a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome to all those who are coming aboard. Thank you to all those who have served. 5.3, 5.4, and 5.5. Put those 3 together. And is there a motion? Anyone want to move
I
it?
will move all 3.
All right, anyone want to second those 3?
I do.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? All right, and then we will go to the audit committee, which last met in December. I believe we covered it. We'll be meeting again February.
Correct. Thanks.
Thank you. Curriculum committee.
We have not met since the last board meeting, and we've had to postpone our January meeting until February 7th at 4:30 p.m.
All right. 2, 7, 4:30. And then facilities, did that meet?
We did meet.
And-
I brought the notes. Want me to try to cover for Rob?
Yeah,
As I
Rob,
just realized.
Yes, I'm putting you on the spot.
Excellent.
Thanks for that.
We met in December 13th, so that's before the holiday fog. Let's see what I can remember. We discussed accepting donations from various groups. This particular one was the softball booster club, and they are interested in donating a batting cage. There were some details associated with it that we needed clarity on still. I think Joe was gonna talk to
Yeah,
them.
Joseph
about
Hans is gonna
design.
speak to the person who wanted to donate it and
Right.
then get back to the facilities committee.
Also, we got a request for the use of facilities for the club lacrosse. We discussed that. However, we already do have a contract with New Scotland Soccer through this year, so it'll cover all summer. I think it was June to next July.
Yep.
Right. So Joe is gonna try to talk to the New Scotland Soccer Club and the lacrosse club and see if something could be worked out so that both groups could try to use facilities. And while we were discussing that, we also started discussing the issue of the fees that we charge to line the fields. And that maybe we should readdress that cost associated with that, because it is costing the district quite a bit of money, and we don't really have a set fee to charge that out to the clubs, which would involve a policy change, policy 1500, so I'll talk to the policy person.
Keep it in-house.
Yeah. There was a request to donate a garden in honor of Jim. I don't think we had any issues with that.
No, just waiting on some of the
Design?
design, so you want me to talk about that real
Yeah,
quick?
yeah, that
Because I
would be
remember,
Yeah.
you said it, I go, all right, I remember all this now. Actually, I spoke to the person who's in charge of that. So Jim Halayton, if everyone knows or remembers, Jim Halayton taught here for many years. He also was a soccer coach and a member of our community. His daughter and family would like to create a garden in his honor, donated to the district. So they're working with Elemental Landscaping to do a design for the district, and similar to what the VCSF did with the garden, we would do a contract with them. They would pay for all the donations, all the materials, and all the work to be done, and they would put the garden in over near where the soccer field is. Joseph Bienza looked at that, saw no reason how it would impact any issues with any of the playing fields, and everything that would be put on it would be low maintenance and low occurring, and we could also look at some of our community service groups that we have within the district to be able to help keep the upkeep of it as well. So those are things that we're looking at, see no issue with it as the facilities committee, and I'll be bringing the full proposal to the board for approval probably in February.
Thank you. And then in general, we just talked about next year's budget, things to consider. We tried to make a list up of, just a wish list. And then we were updated on the capital project, which Frank just did. I think that's it. That's in the notes, right? So I think that was facilities, and I didn't write down when our next meeting is.
January
January
25th.
25th for the interviews, right, okay.
All right, would you like to continue?
Oh, for that, yeah, please. Okay, our policy, our last meeting was December 7th. So again, a little bit of fog, but I went through my notes to try to remember. So we have 4 policies up for vote tonight, which are second reads. So I can discuss those, and then we have a resolution to consider or a campaign to consider. So the first group of policies, there's 3 of them that we're voting tonight that I kind of grouped as student policies. There's 5220, which is student publications. We already had that policy. It hasn't been updated since 2003. And we reviewed it versus other policies in the NISBA one, and we decided to stick with ours because it was a little bit more specific to how Voorheesville operates. And we added a little bit of a new section. If you looked at the documents, that section is in red, which basically covers the permission needed to distribute literature. So that we'll be voting on tonight. Also in the student policies, 5225, student personal expression. We've been working on this for a couple of months and going back and forth to get some clarity with NISBA. Our last policy was from 2010. This policy update also would bring us current with some new case law that has happened since our policy. And it also addresses personal expression that takes place out of the context of the school sponsored events, which is partly because of that case law. And it also expanded some definitions of race from the Crown Act. That's the majority, I think, of what we did. And we had some discussion back and forth how to make it clear for a student to know how to have, if they had a complaint, how to go forward with that complaint, which brings us to the next policy we have up tonight, 5030, student complaints. And we already had that policy, but we hadn't updated it since 2003 and found it easier to start with a NISBA recommended policy. And if you look at that, you'll also see there's a nice little chart at the bottom that discuss pretty much all the potential issues a student might have to complain about, and it outlines the policy. Because it got a little confusing to know how to complain versus what the complaint was. So hopefully that will add clarity. So those are the 3 up for vote tonight under student policies. And then we also looked at policy 8130. So the next group is kind of what I consider safety policies. 8130 is school safety plans and teams. We had revised our policy in 2013, but it wasn't exactly up to date with what we were doing. So we looked at NISBAs and other schools, and we decided to start with NISBAs. There's some new language in there just that was recommended to deal with disaster emergencies to be current with the new laws. We tweaked the section that you'll see if you look at the policy online. The district-wide team and the plan, so it's current with our practice. And then we added a new section called threat assessment team section, which Frank and team and teachers came up with to try to better lay out what to do if we actually do have a threat. So a lot of good discussion went behind that, and this is just the policy to umbrella that.
Can I clarify one thing about the threat assessment? Threat assessment also is not, it's for proactive approaches for threat assessment, reactive approaches during the situation, and then afterwards aspects of it. And we're utilizing two different models, the Secret Service one, and I can't remember the one off the other top of my head, to be able to create the district threat assessment plan. So it really does, it's a comprehensive understanding, not just for incidents when they happen, but also preventative measures for incidents. So it's really the focus of what school safety is nowadays and what a lot of schools are going towards. And I'm pretty happy that we're at the point where the board is adopting a policy for this, and that we have a really pretty comprehensive plan that the basis is of this, and that we're continuing to build on. The plan itself has been taking about a year for the district to complete, and we're still in tweaking and working through it. So, but thank you.
I'll get back to the one other safety item, but just to finish up on our policy meeting, we just had general discussion on some other policies that we're working on that we'll probably do at our next meeting. The code of conduct, the student searches and interrogation section. Also, we discussed 5152 admission of non-resident students to try to further define a definition. I think we ended up wanting to talk to our attorneys one more time.
I do have an answer for that.
Okay, so that'll be at our next policy meeting. And also on the horizon, the item we talked about from facilities. And we still are working on those groups that I've talked about before, the student organization policies, which we're pretty close to having the team bring to us, and sports policies, which will be an ongoing, but we might have a first look very soon. And I did notice that NISBA put out their quarterly update recommendations, so we can just talk about what those were in our next meeting. And I think that was it. Policy team, and Kelly had sat through all that.
Yes, I did.
And added a lot of value. It's nice to have a student there. So the last thing that we talked about that I grouped under safety was this, people might be familiar with it, it's called the Be Smart campaign. And I think it takes on all different forms at different districts, or doesn't take any form. So it's really up to what we might want to do. And the policy agreed that maybe we could just bring it to the full board tonight, just to see how people feel about it, if they want to pursue something or don't. It basically is an educational campaign on secure gun storage. Some schools are doing resolutions to just try to put it out there and keep it in front of people. We can send it could just be an educational campaign without a resolution. Just kind of a reminder that, people have guns, and this is just to remind people of how important it is to keep them safe in your home and to store them safe. And also a reminder for people that don't have guns that you could have your child at a play date with a family that has a gun. So it's important for all families to just think about it once in a while and talk about it. And that's about as far as we got at policy, because we're like, this is for a full board item to discuss and just see if people are interested on the board of pursuing some sort of a campaign for a resolution. We did provide on the board docs a sample resolution that some other districts have done. The one that we looked at, they went as far as to putting it in the student code or the student handbook, which I can see some value to, but also that's the student signing that. I guess to the parents, yeah, I guess they do. Then we went back and forth, like how much do you put in there before it becomes something no one reads? If we're being honest. So I put that out there. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts or opinions.
I did update the resolution because it was neighboring school that we did have in there. I found the generic resolution from Be Smart, and I did update that. So that's the one that you're seeing for the model school board resolution is the Be Smart basic recommended resolution for school districts.
Any thoughts, anyone?
That's a lot, thank you.
I know, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm always for education, but I don't know how that would look here, or if people have opinions.
No,
Do
I
we have it later in our, for some reason I thought-
I think it's under new business, so we can either discuss it now, or I guess wait. But that will conclude my policy update.
thank you
Thanks,
for
Trish.
covering both of those.
So yeah, I guess we could talk about it in the new business section if you want, Rachel.
I think I'm comfortable talking about it now if you guys are. Let's roll right into the model resolution. Do the other members of the policy committee have anything they want to share directly about it?
First? So full disclosure, I have a friend who works for Everytown for Gun Safety, which is the campaign, they started this Be Smart campaign. And I think they're doing great work, around the country. So I'm fully supportive of this. I mean, as far as where it gets incorporated, I think that's something policy committee could take back and we could formulate something more structured around how we want to roll out the campaign. I'm in favor of doing something that's more than educational and, has a bit of a more formal component to it. Such as, incorporating it into the code of conduct or wherever, after discussion policy thinks is appropriate.
I like this resolution, and I think the resolves are very appropriate. Having information in the student handbook, having a letter from the superintendent, perhaps signed off by the board president as well. So it's coming from us as well. And working with law enforcement, those seem like very appropriate things for us to acknowledge and educate and create awareness. It's kind of like you hope that this is a conversation students and their parents are having back home. Are we doing the right thing? Are we keeping our guns safe? And can we do something? Should we be doing something different? So I like it.
Barbara?
The campaign, how long does that last? Like, is that like every year at September, we would?
I think it could be whatever we want to make it be. I mean, I think if we do it personally, we should do it annually, something. That's my own personal opinion, though.
Oh, I would agree.
Oh,
Yeah, I would support the Be Smart campaign. I think we should do it like every year, just in light of events like in the past year. I think it would be good to kind of show gun safety education like every year and kind of bring it back up again. I think that would be good.
Anything to add, Robin?
I don't know, I think it's a good idea to do it annually. I mean, we do things like fire safety every
Right,
year
right.
that affects families in the homes, so makes sense.
Okay, so we'll take that on, we'll rediscuss it at our house meeting. Did you want to add anything, Rachel?
No, I would look forward to hearing from you where you think this would fit best
Mhm.
as a standalone, as a resolution, as a policy and resolution. So, yeah, I heartily agree that this is a more proactive voice from the district to explain, just be educated, be aware that safety is important and this is a risk factor. Thank you.
Does that sound okay, Frank? Did you want to add anything?
I just want to share one story that we talked about at the policy committee meetings. I went to a training recently and it was about this. And they said to me, to a parent, they're like, well, do you call when someone's going to the house? You say, is a parent going to be there? And of course I asked that if my child's going to someone's house. And they said, well, do you ask about, is there any open containers of alcohol? I said, well, no, of course I never asked that. Why would I impede? And then do I ask if there's guns in the home? I said, well, no. And then they're like, well, why don't you? And I didn't think about that because again, people can own guns, they hunt, they do it. I think it's absolutely fine, but it's the storage aspect that they said, well, if your child's going to a home and there's open guns, do you feel comfortable And as a parent, I go, I've never thought like that. And I think just that myself, it made me start thinking as a parent, you know, how do I feel about that? Would I advocate, would I even speak to a family saying, you know, if you have guns, please make sure they're stored appropriately? Or even when I tell my children, if you were ever see a weapon, what do you do? And having those conversations, I think, are really important. And that was prompt from a very simple conversation that I had. So I think just like this, something very small can have huge impacts in the home that we really don't understand. And I think that's the idea behind this, is what can the district do to help these conversations at home that, again, isn't condemning or hurting any issues. It's just saying, are you having these conversations at home to make sure that everyone is safe? And I'm a proponent of it. You know, I brought this up before. So, you know, I think it's a good thing, and I'm glad that the board is looking into it.
Yeah, I think it's normalizing conversations about gun safety,
Right.
right? And there's a commercial, I don't know if anyone's seen it, with the tiger. And the parents are dropping off the child for a play date, they're like, will the tiger be locked up? It's a really effective commercial, but I think that's what this is.
Especially when you look at the statistics.
Yeah.
And then you realize if you do nothing, those statistics stand. At least you could try to do something.
How about the horror of a 6-year-old
Right.
shooting
Right.
his teacher? Unbelievable.
Thank you all for your consideration of the issue, and thank you for your committee work. I really appreciate it. We all do. With that, we're gonna start with item 7.1, new business, the action on the bond resolution for the elementary school construction and the bus garage. Are there any thoughts or questions or? All right, anyone want to move it?
I'll move it.
Anyone want a second?
I'll second it.
Next one. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? Want to point out that there are several generous donations through Hannaford in item 7.2, and then a budget amendment in item 7.3 to incorporate those should we pass this. If we want to, or any thoughts, questions? Anyone want to?
I'll move it.
All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much to Hannaford and everyone part of the program. So 7.4, that policy regarding school safety plans, we're all comfortable? Okay, and then we'll also include 7.5, student complaints policy. Does everyone questions about that? 7.6, any questions about student personal expression or comments?
I had made a comment to the board earlier about just updating the title and a cross-reference.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I'm good.
Thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
All right, and 7.7, the student publications policy. Yes, does anyone want to move those?
Yeah. I would move that.
I would love to second those.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, and there's a bid for the vestibule project that Mr. McCree mentioned earlier. Any questions, thoughts, comments?
I do want to say the bids came in under the estimated aspect, so
Okay,
they're good bids.
good bids. All right, any questions? Anyone want to move them?
I'll move those.
Anyone want a second?
I will second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, with that, we move to item 8, the opportunity for the public to be heard. This is a second opportunity. You can read more about it in your agenda. Anyone? All right. The opportunity for the board to be heard. Any thoughts? Thank you all for being here. Happy New Year. forward to 2023 with its tech problems already. Sorry, and Happy New Year to all. So with that, we move to 9.1, the dates to remember. Next board meeting, right here, February 6th. We will also begin with an audit committee meeting, timing for that to be determined. And with that, I'd like to adjourn we have someone who'd like to move to adjourn.
I will move to adjourn.
Anyone like to second that?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you all for being here tonight. Have a great night.
Thank you.